An incredible athlete, master showman, and a total fan favorite. This is Johnny Valentine for you. He was a wrestling god until a tragedy struck him. A crash changed his life forever, and you can't help but wonder, did this tragedy ultimately lead to his death? Let's get into it. Valentine wrestled for almost 30 years, battling it out with the biggest names in the business. He wasn't just some journeyman wrestler. He held tons of championships, including the prestigious NWA United States Heavyweight Championship. This dude was a workhorse, traveling all over the country, putting on classic matches every night. One thing that made Valentine so special was his ability to play both the good guy and the bad guy. He could fire up the crowd as a hero, but he could also be a ruthless villain when he wanted to be. That's what made him such a captivating performer. Valentine was known for his rough and tough style in the ring. He wasn't afraid to get down and dirty, and fans loved him for it. He wrestled all over the country, winning championships and becoming a legend in the sport. But everything changed on October 4th, 1975. Johnny was on his way to a wrestling event in Wilmington, North Carolina. He was flying with some other wrestlers, including a young Ric Flair, who would later become a huge star himself. They were all crammed into a small private plane, a Cessna 310. Now here's where things start to go wrong. The pilot, a man named Michael Farkas, realized the plane was overloaded with passengers and their luggage. It was just too heavy. Instead of taking some of the weight off, the pilot made a bad decision. He decided to take on less fuel, thinking it would be enough to get them to Wilmington. But this turned out to be a huge mistake. As they were flying, the unthinkable happened. The plane ran out of fuel. Can you imagine the fear those guys must have felt? The engine sputtered and died, and the plane started to fall from the sky. The pilot tried to make an emergency landing in a field, but the crash was brutal. The plane was wrecked, and everyone on board was injured. Johnny Valentine suffered the worst injuries. His back was broken, and a piece of bone went into his spinal cord. This caused him to be paralyzed from the waist down. He would never walk again. Ric Flair also broke his back in the crash, but luckily he was able to recover and return to wrestling. The pilot and another wrestler, Bob Bruggers, also had serious spinal injuries. Sadly, the pilot fell into a coma and died a year later. Two other wrestlers, Tim Woods and David Crockett, were hurt too, but not as badly. They were able to recover and continue their careers. But for Johnny Valentine, the crash was life-changing. He had surgery to try and fix his back, but the damage was too severe. He was confined to a wheelchair for the rest of his life. Imagine how tough that must have been for him. He was a strong, athletic man who loved wrestling. Now he was suddenly unable to move his legs. It was a heartbreaking end to a promising career. His hopes for a normal life were all gone until something happened and changed his distorted point of view. After the 1975 plane crash that left Johnny seriously injured, he pushed Sharon away, his then-girlfriend, not wanting her to witness his struggles. But fate wasn't done with them yet. Years later, Johnny decided he couldn't let Sharon slip away. Using braces and crutches to help him walk, he drove through her neighborhood for hours, searching for her house. When he finally found it, he slowly approached the front door. Inside, Sharon's daughter spotted him and announced, "Johnny Valentine is here." Sharon, who had been ill, initially hid and refused to come to the door. But Johnny stood firm, insisting he wouldn't leave until he saw her. Eventually, Sharon gave in, and when she opened the door, Johnny proposed. She accepted, beginning the next chapter of their extraordinary love story. Their relationship inspired Sharon to plan a book titled A Never-Ending Love Story of a Wrestler and His Wife, chronicling their life together and the unshakable bond they shared. He returned to the wrestling world as a manager in Paul Boesch's promotion down in Texas. He even managed a wrestler named Dale Hay, who competed as Dale Valentine. They tried to play up this whole long-lost brothers storyline, which, let's be honest, was a bit out there. It didn't really catch on, but it showed Valentine's dedication to the business and his willingness to try new things. Every cloud has a silver lining, they say. Sharon was that for him. Years after the crash, Johnny faced another health crisis that underscored the fragility of his condition. In August 2000, Johnny fell from his front porch, setting off a cascade of medical complications. The fall fractured his back once again, a devastating injury for someone already paralyzed. As if that weren't enough, the aftermath brought a series of life-threatening conditions. He developed pneumonia, which strained his lungs, leading to a collapse. A staph infection compounded his troubles, and his kidneys began to fail. These complications placed Johnny in critical condition, and he eventually slipped into a coma. At one point during his coma, a tender moment offered a glimpse of hope. Sharon, his devoted wife, sat by his bedside singing to him. Moved by her voice, Johnny briefly emerged from the coma, singing along with her. But the moment was fleeting, and he soon slipped back into unconsciousness. The mounting medical bills created another layer of difficulty. Sharon had secured health insurance through an HMO, but the organization refused to cover the extended hospital stay and the numerous treatments Johnny required. The wrestling community, however, came to his aid. Lou Thess's wife reached out to the Cauliflower Alley Club, which raised funds to help cover the staggering medical expenses, which totaled nearly $1 million. On April 24, 2001, Johnny Valentine passed away peacefully at his home in River Oaks, Texas. He was 72 years old. His wife Sharon, who had stood by him through every challenge, kept his ashes in her bedroom, a lasting tribute to their enduring love. Even in death, Johnny's legacy lived on. Shortly after his passing, Pro Wrestling Illustrated honored him with the Stanley Weston Award, recognizing his lifetime achievements in wrestling. Sharon continued to speak about their love story, planning to write a book titled A Never-Ending Love Story of a Wrestler and His Wife. Sharon herself passed away in 2013, leaving behind their remarkable story of devotion and resilience. The two are remembered not just for their love for each other, but for their courage in facing life's hardest battles together. His death may have closed the chapter on his life, but his story continues to inspire. Whether through his legendary wrestling career or his incredible strength in the face of hardship, Johnny Valentine's legacy remains a testament to the power of resilience and love. Johnny Valentine's life is one of those stories that really makes you stop and think. On one hand, you have this legendary wrestler, a man who built an incredible career, traveling the country, winning championships, and captivating fans with his larger-than-life persona. On the other hand, you see how quickly life can take an unexpected turn, throwing challenges that even the strongest among us can't escape. The plane crash in 1975 wasn't just a physical blow. It completely changed the course of Johnny's life. Imagine being at the peak of your career, doing what you love, and then suddenly it's all taken away. It's heartbreaking. But what's even more striking is how Johnny didn't let that tragedy define him. He found a way to keep going, even when things seemed impossible. His love story with Sharon is such a beautiful example of hope, of finding light in the darkest times. What really stands out, though, is Johnny's grit. Even after losing his ability to wrestle, he stayed connected to the sport, managing other wrestlers and giving back to the business that made him a star. And let's not forget the wrestling community stepping up for him when he needed help. That's a testament to the bond this industry creates. Johnny's story isn't just about wrestling, it's about resilience, love, and never giving up, no matter how hard life hits you. He showed us that even when the odds are stacked against you, there's still a way forward. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more wrestling stories. And be sure to leave a comment below sharing your thoughts on Johnny Valentine's tragic story.